Welcome to a special episode of Beyond the Den. I'm your host, Dio, and today we're diving deep with the one and only Zeneca, a former professional poker player turned Web3 visionary. In this episode, we'll explore his eye-opening journey into NFTs, peek into the ever-evolving landscape of Web3 gaming, and understand his unique investment philosophy. Zeneca shares insights on new partnerships, along with drawing parallels between poker strategies and crypto investments. Get ready for rapid fire rounds where he reveals his NFT regrets, top picks, and addresses common Web3 misconceptions. Plus, valuable advice for newcomers and a special message for the Zen Academy and 333 Club members. Don't miss Zeneca's compelling closing thoughts in today's captivating talk. Stay tuned. Hey everyone, what is up? It is Digital Optimist here. I just want to say thank you so much for joining us on Beyond the Den. Quick favor to ask, hit that subscribe button. When you hit that subscribe button, that's going to allow me to attract top tier guests to provide you with the most value possible. Give me a follow over on X at Digital Optimist. Let's get started. I am here with the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Zeneca. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yes, for sure. So tell us a little bit about your journey from being a professional poker player to becoming a key figure in the Web3 space.
Yeah, I was a professional poker player for 15 years, from 2005, basically all the way up to early 2021. And that was a whole journey in and of itself. But I think there's a lot of natural overlaps between being a poker player and being in the crypto space, trading, dealing with money and finance and risk and probabilities and odds and all that kind of stuff. So, I first became aware of crypto. 2011, I knew about Bitcoin, and, a lot of poker players, or some poker players, were playing online poker in Bitcoin. I unfortunately never really got into it that early or bought any Bitcoin. But 2017 rolled around and Ethereum started, taking off. And I had a good friend of mine, Jamie, he messaged me, he's like, have you heard about this Ethereum thing? Maybe we should be buying some or looking into it. And I think Ethereum was around $40 or $70 at the time. Maybe it might have been $10 or $15. We kind of dragged our feet, but we ended up buying in around 150 to 200 US. Not a lot, maybe 10 or 15 ETH. And that whole 2017 bull market was fun and wild and crazy and made a whole bunch of money and basically lost it all back and round tripped my bags at least. And then I went back to poker. And then 2021 rolled around and everything started taking off again. And Jamie, the exact same friend I owe a lot to him, was like, have you heard about NFTs? And I hadn't. And so between the two of us, we started doing some research and figuring it out. And, our first reactions were it's a scam. And then eventually we were like, hang on a second, we read some stuff and we're like, oh, there's actually something here. Fell down the rabbit hole. And by 2021, I was over poker. I was pretty ready to get out of it. Actually, a few years earlier, had gone back to law school to try and see if that was something I wanted to do, which turns out it wasn't. Yeah, I was like, all right, crypto is taking off. And, I left in 2018 during the bear market of crypto. I wish I had stuck around. And I was like, I'm not going to make the same mistake. I'm going to go all in and sort of dedicate all my time and energy into figuring this space out. And that was it. That's how it all sort of started.
Wow, super interesting. And what's the comparable to 2017 and right now? What would you say? Are you getting those vibes?
Let's see. 2017 was really bullish. So I'd say that was closer to 2021. I would say where we are now, I would say last year, 2022, and earlier this year, when it was really bad, bearish, a year ago, FTX was blowing up and sentiment was really low. That was kind of how it was in 2018 when I checked out of the space. It was worse back in 2018 by all accounts, but it was that feeling of, all right, lots of people are leaving, giving up, throwing up their hands, going back to real life.
Yeah.
No one likes to refresh their portfolio and just see it red and down day after day after. It's just not a pleasant thing.
Yeah. Bloodbath, right?
This time around,
crazy.
Total bloodbath.
Yeah.
But this time around, I'm like, you know what? I'm not leaving. I'm just I know it, like I have such deep conviction that it's going to come back. I really believe in the technology and all the use cases. And now, like, we're recording this December 2023. It's like we've had a real, at least the beginnings of what seems like a bull market or a very bullish phase. Um, it seems like things might be turning around now, which is it's really nice to see.
Yeah, for sure. When did you have that aha moment in NFTs?
Um, it would have been, I think, end of February, early March 2021. I read this great newsletter piece by Packy McCormick, Power to the People, or Power to the Person. I never remember the title, but basically it's all about the creator economy and how NFTs can unlock. Like creator economy was already taking off with Twitch streaming and YouTube content creators and influencers and Patreon and all that kind of stuff, and how NFTs and crypto could really unlock this new wave of that and this new era of the internet, which I still
Yeah.
absolutely believe it can and will. And so that was really an aha moment. And Jamie and I both read that and we came away and we were like, we got to buy a CryptoPunk. And then we looked at the prices and we were like, we can't afford a CryptoPunk. And you could buy like fractional shares of crypto of the Punk's token.
Yep.
And I think we each ended up buying like 2 or 3% after figuring out Sushi Swap and what the hell MetaMask was and
Yeah.
it was so complicated and confusing. It still is.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, we bought like fractions of a percent of a CryptoPunk. That was like, yeah, the aha moment and falling down the rabbit hole.
Crazy, man. It really is. And like the current landscape right now, right? In Web3 and NFTs, how do you see that evolving in the near future?
It's still super early. I think the vast majority of NFTs are vaporware, going to be worthless junk.
Sure.
But like everyone says, there's a tiny percentage, 1%, or probably much less than 1%, that are going to be like priceless artifacts, whether it's digital art or highly valued gaming assets. Like I'm a lifetime gamer. I was playing RuneScape back in 2003, 2004, and they dropped these party hat items that I think today are worth like thousands, maybe tens of thousands of dollars. They were like effectively NFTs without actually being them. And I
Sure.
think that some of these items in games, NFT based games today, will be like that. It's just a matter of figuring out what is going to make it and what is not. And I think that I mean, it's still so convoluted and complex and difficult for sort of the average user to interact with.
Yeah.
It's so much better than it was in 2021 and a million times better than 2017, let alone earlier. But we need it to get better. And I think that this cycle, like the next 2 years, is when that begins to happen, when the great unlock, when people can create a wallet using their smartphone, using their fingerprint, and without needing to memorize a seed phrase. And when security gets to a point where people aren't getting scammed all the time, and
Yeah.
when the transaction speeds and are low enough and fees are low enough that anyone can interact on blockchain without paying a dollar, let alone $50 or $10. It'll
Sure.
be fractions of 1 penny to play, and like that will really unlock a lot of things.
Yeah, for sure. And Immutable's coming out with, I don't know if it's out just yet, but Passport, right? With the wallet. Is that correct? Where it's just like an
I
onboarding. I haven't looked too much into it, but it just seems super interesting for onboarding, whether it be a custodial wallet or just obviously plug and play. Just get an
mm,
email and take the friction out of all of this because we're not going to be able to onboard many of the people outside of the crypto atmosphere.
yeah, 100%. I'm not familiar with Passport myself. I might have heard about it, but like I mean, Immutable is great, and there's a bunch of people working on basically that same kind of thing. Where, I mean, there was this new upgrade to Ethereum that came out, I think earlier this year, maybe last year. Account abstraction basically
Mm,
allows for like smart wallets or smart accounts that can be created with like a an email address or your phone security, and be as secure as a seed phrase or almost as secure as a seed phrase. And a lot of people are now building, it first the technology comes out, then people have to test it and try it, and then eventually it becomes like ready for users and mainstream adoption. And I think we're getting close to that point now where we're gonna see a lot of companies and blockchains roll these things out and onboard presumably a lot of people. And the other big part of it all is the use cases are getting there. Like it used to be like, what was the point of using crypto? And it was like to send money to people. Great, that's an amazing use case. And buy NFTs and DeFi. It's kind of complex and not for everyone. But with social fi and with gaming, especially like gaming is such a big industry, there's actually fun games that are coming out, and like all of this stuff, I think is really going to usher in a new wave of just crypto adoption.
Yeah. What do you think the biggest selling point is for Web3 gaming?
Um, there's a couple. I think the whole play to earn thing is compelling for some people. It's a big
Mhm.
turnoff for others, so it's kind of a double-edged sword. Some people don't want to
Yeah.
think about money when they play games. They want to de-stress and not worry that the item that they just found that is worth $50, they have to think about, should I sell it? Should I hold it? Like
Hmm.
a lot of people don't want to think about that. But others really do. So like that's one potential selling point. I think another is the self-custody level of it, where it's like you actually own your account and your assets, because we've seen a lot of people over the years have like their World of Warcraft or their Counter-Strike accounts get banned or shut down, sometimes for breaching rules, sometimes for not breaching rules, and for just reasons outside of their control. So I think that's a big one. And then I think the whole interoperability element is also super cool, being able to take assets from one sort of game or metaverse to another. I think we're ages away from that being realistic. Like we need like industry
Yeah.
standards, and it's not easy to just take a sword from one game into another. But in maybe 5-10 years, the technology will get to a point where that is possible. And I think that's appealing to a lot of people as well.
Sure. And you had mentioned SocialFi and your love for community. Can you speak to a little bit more about the ability to unlock that social aspect in Web3 gaming?
Yeah, I mean, I think SocialFi it'll definitely interact with gaming, but I think even taking a step back and looking at it without the gaming element, it's to me is the natural future. I would even say like decentralized social is even more important than SocialFi. SocialFi, social
Yeah.
finance will be a big part of it, but decentralized social is so needed in the world today. Like what we have is social media is obviously massive, but it's very siloed and isolated between big tech giants. You have Facebook and Meta, yeah, and Instagram. Then you have Twitter, X, and that whole ecosystem. Then you have Snapchat, and you have TikTok, and it's all these islands, and it's very difficult as a creator to like build on multiple places at once. Or if you're on one platform and want to get people to another, it's very, very difficult. The platforms inherently make it difficult. And again, the same problems with gaming come into play, where you can get your account. So many people have had their Twitter or X accounts banned, or YouTube changes their algorithm, and people that were making 6 figures a year are now making $5,000 or $10,000 a year, and their entire livelihood has changed, and it's very difficult to plan.
Sure.
Decentralized social sort of again brings that ownership layer back into things, where it can't that one central entity can't just ruin everything by changing their algorithm or banning an account, because you can move to another, you can build your own, there's decentralized applications, and I think that's really important. And then the
Yeah.
social fi element, that the finance element that comes in, will allow creators to more directly be able to monetize their content, or just for fans to sort of support their favorite creators in more direct ways by eliminating fees and middlemen and all that kind of stuff. So
Oh
just
yeah.
more efficient market.
Yeah. Yeah. The secondary market is a huge opportunity. And we see that a lot in I'm a big fan of Wolf Game. I mean, it's the
Mm.
community has created so many amazing tools and just the market making that they're doing with that is a whole nother animal. So I could just see that completely exploding in a positive way. So you talked a little bit about islands, right? So you have a partnership with Nifty Island. Is that
Yes, we
correct?
do. Yeah, I love them. I love the team. I know someone who's been working with them for over a year, and what they're building is really cool, and they're very excited for that.
Yeah, yeah. I looked into Nifty Island maybe when I first started getting into NFTs. It was probably two years ago, and I was like, "Oh, this seems super interesting," but it seemed very complex at the time, and I was like, "Oh, I just got sidetracked and started degenerating into something else," But
Yeah.
they've been still building, right? And their community is
Hmm.
getting stronger.
That's the thing. It's 2021, everyone said, like, there was this massive gaming meta and narrative in 21. It sort of kicked off after Facebook changed their name to Meta, and then everyone was
Yeah,
like, "Oh, metaverse, this, that, and the other," and NFTs were already pumping, and everything went crazy. But the reality was there weren't any good games. Like it was just far too early. Everyone said, hey, it takes 5 to 10 years to build an excellent game. And they were right. It really does, to build a AAA game, or even like 2 to 3 years to build a non
yeah,
AAA, but like a really good, well tested, balanced game. And now, we're almost into 2024. A lot of these companies have been building since 2017, 2019, 2021. It's been 3 to 7 years now. We're seeing some
Sure.
really fun, excellent games and metaverses and experiences and virtual worlds come out that are just high fidelity, bugless, exciting, fun, interesting, good game mechanics, balance, all this kind of stuff, good tokenomics. And so, and Nifty Island is one of those. They've been around for years building, great team, great community now. They've partnered with a lot of communities and are really sort of bringing, they're not trying to be their own little island to use the pun again. It's sort of
Hmm.
they're like bringing in all these other communities and being like, hey, let's all be part of this space together. And it's really fun and cool.
Amazing. How about Inspect XYZ? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Inspect, or NFT Inspect, what they used to be called. Now I think they're just Inspect. They've also been around for a couple of years. It's basically a platform, a layer that lives on top of Twitter or X, which effectively has ranked the Twitter accounts and project accounts, so like personal Twitter accounts and project Twitter accounts, based on the amount of engagement they get in Twitter from other accounts. And for content creators, it's sort of been seen as like a really great way to measure how well you're doing in the content creation and the Twitter engagement and growth space, as well as how strong communities are by seeing which community are ranking higher and higher.
Sure. Yeah.
And I mean, just tons of people have used their product. They, I think about a year ago, said they were shutting down, like they couldn't support it, they couldn't figure out how to monetize, etc. And ended up being acquired by another company that have sort of decided to revamp it, and they said, hey, this is a great product, a lot of people are using it, let's try and figure out product market fit and the monetization model and all that kind of stuff. And so they're launching a token next month, I think maybe
Hmm.
later in December, I'm not actually sure. I invested in them a few months back because I use the product every day or at least every week, and that's just generally a great sign for me. If I'm going to invest in
Sure.
something and I actually use it, is a pretty good
Yeah.
sign. So I mean, I still honestly don't know what their monetization model is. Maybe they still haven't figured it out, but they have a ton of users,
Hmm.
and it's a good product. So excited to see where it goes from here.
Yeah. Let's speak a little bit about that investment philosophy, right? Can you elaborate on your strategy, for token allocation, especially in categories for like, big caps, AI, gaming, memes?
Yeah, it changes. It really does change. I think that the most important thing for anyone in when it comes to investing is to have a strategy. Doesn't most people don't have a strategy, or they don't intentionally think about their strategy, and they don't constantly check up on it. My strategy is it changes from time to time, but I generally am someone that has a much higher tolerance for risk. Maybe that's the poker player or background in me, and so I tend to allocate more to NFTs, more to speculative lower caps that I think can outperform ETH or outperform Bitcoin, and give me exposure to the Bitcoin and ETH space, despite not holding. Like I have a little bit of Bitcoin, I have some ETH, of course, but like as a percentage, I probably allocate more than most to other coins, and I like to think of it in terms of narratives, especially. And I think that
Yeah.
so much of this space runs on narratives. There's this really great graph chart. I don't know who made it. I saw it on Twitter one day. Basically, it's like two big vertical bar charts, and it's like meme coin versus non-meme coin. And a meme coin is all narrative, and then the non-meme coin is 98% narrative and 2% fundamentals. And like in terms of
Yeah.
like the value prop, and I'm like that makes so much sense. And
Sure.
so in terms of narratives, I think AI is going to be a monumental one in the upcoming cycle. I mean, AI in the world is sort of just dominating so many things, and really going to be a massively significant part of our worldview in the next few years and beyond. So it makes sense that AI and blockchain, crypto, NFTs, all of these things will converge. And so I'm placing a lot of bets on AI backed tokens and NFTs and projects and meme coins. I think, meme coins are all narrative, but there's a time and place for those as well.
Mhm.
And gaming, I think gaming is going to be probably another really, really big one. I think it may be a little bit overblown right now. We've been going through this gaming meta where every project is launching a token, and most of them again will crash and burn and go to close to zero, but a few will make it, and I'm really bullish on a couple of games in particular. And
Sure.
yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. Very interesting to how you have Becker and Elio trades and how much they're moving the market, right? So quickly. And
Yeah.
it's just people are just jumping on coins right away. And it is crazy how the number just keeps going up. So it's like, when
Yeah.
is the party going to stop? And obviously you want to buy when there's blood in the street, so it just seems
Yes.
like it's like, when is that blood happening?
That's the craziest part about crypto because you're right. Warren Buffett, be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful. Everyone seems to be pretty greedy right now. But there's another quote, I think Keynes, that the market can remain irrational longer than you can remain solvent or something
Yeah.
like that,
Yeah.
which, it works both ways,
Yeah.
which means, you keep catching falling knives thinking that, things are undervalued, but you end up losing all your money. But the other is you can end up sidelined if things are going up and you're like, oh, it's, things are pumped, it's overheated, can't possibly go up more, I'll wait for a dip. And then in crypto, things can go up 5x in a month, like we've seen a lot of things this month, and then go up another 50x over the course of another 12 months. And so it's like, how do you balance that? And that's where it all comes back to having a strategy by saying, all right, this percentage of my net worth, I'm comfortable having in crypto. Of that percentage, I'm comfortable, 30% Bitcoin, 20% ETH, 20% stables. Okay, 30%, high risk things. I'm going to keep some of that in these other things and like maybe dollar cost average in or pick a couple favorites.
Mhm.
It's all about having that strategy. But I think, you know, something I'm actually working on this post in my head, at least, that I hope to get out soon. It's about how a lot of people miss out on gains because they don't get into something that's done a 2 or 3x thinking that I'm going to wait for a pullback.
Yeah.
And like, if, I bought Bored Apes at 0.7 ETH, and if they'd done a 10x for mint in a month, but it was because I sensed this groundswell of momentum and all this just whatever. And I was like, all right, I'm going to buy now, even though it's gone up a lot, betting that it will keep going up. And I think for some people, they're just very risk averse, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just sort of a phenomenon that I notice. And I sort of realize that I myself am usually not getting in super duper early. I'm usually the someone that buys in when something's gone up a few X because I believe it still has a lot more room to run.
Sure.
And that's just, yeah, an interesting thing that we see a lot in the crypto space.
Yeah. What's the correlation between some of this too and your poker game? You had mentioned obviously strategy being very important. And as a poker player, it's 95% strategy, right? I mean, obviously you got to have some luck thrown in there, but you usually can tell who the shark is
Yes.
at the table too, pretty easily.
Yes. I mean, yeah, poker, yeah, if you can't spot the fish at the table, you are the fish, is the poker saying.
Yeah.
Poker is interesting because one individual hand is like 99% luck, 1% skill. 100,000 hands is going to be 99% skill, 1% luck,
Sure.
or 5%
Yep.
luck, etc. And so the correlation between that and crypto, I think, is, I mean, there's so much variance in crypto as well. Like, you can sort of do a lot of research, make smart decisions, have a strategy, and buy a token, and it can still tank, or you can sell a token and it can go up, to the moon right afterwards. And so it's just about having a strategy, a plan, making good decisions, and ones that are based on logic and reason and not emotion and fear and things like that, and doing it over and over and over again, and believing that, over the long run, good things will happen. And doing it over and over and over again does not mean trading lots, because I think a lot of people make the mistake of over trading and
Yeah.
losing on fees and going from one thing to another, and like, oh, I bought this, but this other thing's pumping, I want to get into that. Oh, but this thing is pumping, and go back to this. One of the best decisions anyone can make over and over and over again is to do nothing. And I think that not enough people do nothing and just sit on their hands. And especially when market is going bonkers, it's like, all right, it's good to either do nothing or maybe sell a little bit, but not like
Hmm.
sell to go into something else and still out of that's
Yeah.
going to, like, most people aren't profitable traders.
Yeah. Well, think about that too with poker. A lot of times it's good to just sit out. But if you played
Yes,
every single hand, I mean, sooner or later you're just gonna get crushed, right?
you
That
get
would be cool.
obliterated.
That'd be a really cool post by someone like yourself that, can make those correlations between poker and
Yeah,
NFTs
that
and
is a good,
cryptos.
really good analogy, actually. Yeah.
So I mean, I think if you really, dug in deep, you can think of some wild things. And even telling your personal stories. I mean, you've got to have some crazy poker stories, anything that strikes you that, you had a crazy amount of money on the line or?
I mean, yeah, I have a lot, but the weird thing is I think I've forgotten a lot of it. Just the other day, I was going through, actually, I literally have it here, an old hard drive because I'm at my parents' place in Australia and, going through old boxes because they're moving and all that kind of stuff, and found this old hard drive from, 5, 10 years ago, back when I was a poker player. And I have like, all these graphs because I would track, use poker software to track all my hands. And I found one that was a 1.4 million hand break even stretch. So over the course of 1.4 million hands, I basically broken even. I was losing for most of it, and then finally at the end of 1.4, I got back to like basically even.
Wow.
And I'd completely forgotten about that. But it really just reminded me of how insane the variance was at poker and how much that prepared me for the variance of crypto, where, you go through what 2 year bear markets and, 1.4 million hands was probably close to a year of playing poker every single day, being in the crypto space every
Dude,
single
you're
day for,
writing it
and just,
right now, man. This post is
yeah,
coming out. You're gonna write a book.
it's right
Let's write a
there.
book about it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
There
That's
definitely
crazy.
is. Yeah. There's a book in there somewhere.
There definitely is. Awesome, man. Let's talk a little bit about your bull market survival guide. So, what are some of
Yeah.
the key takeaways from that guide that our audience should know?
Yeah. So this is something I started working on a couple months ago, and it's sort of like half finished now. I put like the first module out for free for everyone, and the idea is kind of what I was talking about here, where it's like just have a strategy, and not enough people sit down and think, all right, I want this percentage of my portfolio
Yeah.
in crypto, and this in stocks, and this in real estate, and this in savings, and all that. And then within crypto, how much to Bitcoin and how much to NFTs and all that. Just have that strategy. But even maybe before that, take a step back and think about what kind of approach you want to take to crypto. Do you have 50 hours a week to spend keeping up to date, excuse me, with projects and trading, or do you have a full-time job and you're a parent and you have a life and kids and you can only spend 3 hours a week, and your strategy is going to be completely different.
Yeah.
And maybe the best thing you can do is just like set aside a little bit of money and dollar cost average in and like leave it, and that's great exposure, and you're going to outperform most people by doing that. But really just thinking through like, what is your life situation, what is your risk tolerance, what allocation do you want, and putting together a bit of strategy and literally writing it down, putting pen to paper, thinking about how much time you can devote, what your risk tolerance is, and what your allocations should look like.
Hmm.
And then like a lot of the rest of the guide is sort of going to be on like tips and tricks on how to manage a bankroll, how to manage risk, how like just things that I've picked up in terms of like you want to always sort of be liquid because there's so many opportunities that come up in this space, and especially in the NFT space. I've been in this situation a million times myself, and I've seen
Yeah.
others in it where you see a great opportunity, but all your money's in NFTs. So then you go and like, do I list it at floor? Do I just accept a bid because I want to buy into this?
Depressing.
And it's a
Yeah.
matter of seconds or minutes, and so it takes discipline to just keep 25% of your crypto bankroll in ETH or in stables, just in case a really great opportunity comes along that you need to act on within minutes. Sometimes that can be the difference between making a 5x and a 2x or
Yeah.
whatever. So
Yeah.
things like that go into the guide. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's great. And I think also so much of it comes down to having to go through the trenches yourself too, right? And experience that pain.
Yeah.
And my brother's big. He's a life coach and very big into wellness overall. But he was an alcoholic, i- intense alcoholic, life of the party, either a million miles per hour or really freaking low that could suck the energy out of the room. He spoke about what changed him was when he got to a point when he was disgusted with himself.
Mm,
You get to that point where you're just like, what the fuck am I doing? What is going on? It's that rock bottom, right? And I don't know if many people actually hit that in their lifetime, right? But it's like, I think that that's really where big changes happen. For me in the crypto space was not taking profits when I should have, right? And seeing it
mm,
and not being liquid too, and being like, oh, I have my money tied up in this stupid project that I haven't believed in over a year and a
yeah.
half. It's like it's wild. It really is. So I'm excited to look into that guide. I think it could be very useful for obviously, onboarding noobs into the space, but also people that have been in the space because it's you start getting euphoric, right? We're in that phase right now. where
Yeah.
we're forgetting, I find myself forgetting like
Yeah.
those rules, right? So
It's
having that list in front of you is important.
it's so important. And you're exactly right because, for the last 2 years, everyone I know, including myself, was like, all right, next time I'm going to take profits. I'm going to take profits. I'm not going to. And then now it's like, oh, it's going higher. It's just going to keep going up. It's so difficult in the moment to make good decisions. And that's why having a strategy ahead of time and keep writing it down and continually referencing it is
Yeah.
critical and is key.
Hey, let's talk about your role in Seedify. What excites you about your advisory role there?
Yeah, so we started talking about a month ago. So Seedify is a launch pad for gaming tokens, and obviously, they've been around since for a few years now, but really over the bear market, things were really really quiet. And now that things are heating up again, and especially in the gaming space, there's a lot of gaming projects wanting to launch tokens, and they sort of work with them, help with tokenomics and the launch process. And they actually have a refund policy, which is really excellent and unique that I haven't really seen
Hmm.
much in the space. But, they reached out and said, would you be interested in sort of, joining us as one of our advisors? And we have these other people and we really want people that are sort of in the space, but also into gaming to sort of help us in terms of, go to market strategy, community building, marketing,
Yeah,
all that kind of stuff.
that's
And I
awesome.
was like, this actually sounds amazing. I've been a gamer since, literally since I could hold a controller. I was like 3 or 4, playing Sega Genesis, I think,
Oh yeah.
back in the early 90s. And then, video games my entire life. And so I was like, yeah, this sounds really, really great. And, we chatted and got to meet some of the other team and some of the other advisors. And now, yeah, it's just exciting to be a part of it, especially going into the next bull market. And so, we have,
Mhm.
a group chat with a bunch of the other advisors and there's like roundtables and, that we'll just have calls and conversations about, all right, what do we think is this good? Is this going to land well with the community? Is this, every project kind of wants to make sure that they're not making large missteps. And it can be hard when you're
Yeah.
in the thick of it. Like if it's your company, I know this firsthand with sort of my projects. If you've been working on something for 6 months, day in and day out, it's hard to be objective. And so that's when getting
Mhm.
advisors in who aren't like in the trenches with you, who can take a first look at something and be like, oh, actually, that's people are going to think you're scamming or grifting,
Yeah.
or people are going to think that that's really wild, or no one's going to care about that. But this thing, if you did this, then there'd be a lot of interest. So it's just sort of working with them on that sort of level. Yeah,
Sure.
it's honestly, it's genuinely fun. So I'm excited to be part of it.
I drop Wolf Game a lot, but they had just come up with their Farmhands Council, which is kind of cool. So it's kind of similar. I mean, but
Nice.
Pixelvault with the takeover, right? They're kind of like tiptoeing around, like, hey, we have some amazing ideas. What do
Mm.
you think about this? So it'll just be that council that they run ideas by and help shape the future of the game. So hey Zeneca, I want to run through just some quick rapid fire questions for you, okay?
Let's do it.
Cool. Which NFT do you regret not buying when you had the chance?
Oh, this is actually a really funny one because the first thing that comes to mind is actually there's two. I have a better, more recent one, but the first that came to mind is Proof Path because I was listening to the Modern Finance podcast by Kevin Rose and then the Proof podcast all through 2021, and then they launched their Dutch auction Proof Passes in December 2021. It was just a month after I launched Zen Academy and 3 Club. So I was like really busy and distracted and not paying
Sure.
attention. But I absolutely would have minted several. And they went on to like 100 plus ETH floor. I ended up buying in at like 55 ETH. And it seemed like a great decision for a while. Now, not so much. But that was like, I really regretted not minting those. But more recently, it's Alpha Centauri Kid is an artist, my favorite artist in the space. And he had a series of auctions earlier this year for the Piano Keys collection. I would say his masterpiece collection, even though he has a lot of great masterpieces. And I was there on mint day. I was watching the auctions. I just didn't prepare sort of enough liquidity or the right mindset to be like, yeah, I'm going to spend 10 ETH on this and feel good about it. It was sort of bear market, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I regret it. But it's like 2021. My entire goal in crypto was to flip my way and find a way to get a CryptoPunk, and I eventually did in 2022. Now my entire goal is to sort of figure out a way to justify and reasonably get one of these piano keys by Alpha Centauri Kid, which I think after selling enough things, I will probably eventually feel good about it. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's the one I regret.
I love that goal. let's go towards a NFT project that you would hold for a decade. It can't be a CryptoPunk or a Bored Ape. And it can't be the
Squiggle.
two mentioned, a Squiggle. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Squiggles. I am just more bullish on that than basically anything in crypto. I think so I went to Squiggles, for those who don't know, are like the first collection from Artblocks, a generative art platform by Snowfro, one of the most, I would say, respected people in the space. And it's sort of like an icon for generative art. And I'm extremely bullish on generative art as a medium and
Yeah.
the way that they utilize the technology. And earlier this year, I went to Marfa, Texas. Sorry, this is rapid fire, but I give long
No,
answers.
I love it, man.
But
I
yeah,
love it. I heard that was an
they
amazing experience.
it was. I was. I wish I could go the last 2 years, but this is the first year I could make it. And it's this tiny town in the middle of nowhere that really is like a pilgrimage to get to. Within the US, you have to take usually 2 flights and then drive for 3 hours. If you're coming from
Hmm.
internationally, it's even more of a trek. But and it was in the depths of the bear market. This was several months ago. Still, they managed to get 700 people turning up there, and these squiggles are everywhere. Everyone of the vibes were great. People are celebrating it. And I'm like,
It's
yeah,
powerful.
no,
Yeah.
nobody has enough squiggles. That's
Hmm.
the one I would feel most comfy holding.
Yeah. Very cool. What's an underrated crypto game that has caught your attention?
Ooh, maybe like Battle Plan by Pixel Vault. I think
Mhm.
sort of a lot of other games have been getting a lot of attention lately. Parallel is amazing. Forgotten Runes recently amazing. I think Pixel Vault is still a little under, like they haven't really had the light properly shine on them. Just this last week, they're getting a bit more attention. But I
Mhm.
think in the next month or two, I think it'll sort of take off a bit more. And I played it, like, I for a few hours a few days ago, I just sat down and I was like, yeah, let me just try this game out. It was really fun, and I was like,
Really
I,
good.
I enjoyed playing it. Yeah,
Yeah. It's top tier too. Just everything from the sound to the graphics to
yeah,
just and this
the
Goose guy is
strategy.
a yeah, dude. He's a madman. He's
Yeah,
special. I think he's gonna and what's cool too. I keep going back to the Wolf game thing. It's just like people. I think it will naturally lead down from battle plan and from meta heroes into Wolfgam assets. That's like how sold I am
mm.
on that. What would you say the biggest misconception is that people have about the Web3 space?
um, I mean, there's a lot. I think is that it's all a scam. Like I think that it's a very common one. It's like it's greater fool theory. There's no underlying value. It's just digital, made up money and fake. And I think that it's the biggest one because so many people have it. And the ironic thing is they're right about 99.9% of it. They're just wrong about the 0.1% that is actually changing the world and is going to sort of take maybe 99.9% is a bit much, but like they are right. A
Yeah.
lot of it is scams and Ponzi's and just nonsense. But there is fundamental value. There is this need for decentralization in the world and for giving ownership and power back to individuals. And it's increasing as time goes on, as companies gain more power, as countries gain more power. And I think that misconception is large, and I think it will change over time. It is changing. More and more people are buying and holding crypto,
Hmm.
but it's still held by so many people that they throw the baby out with the bathwater, and they look at one element of crypto and
Right.
paint the entire space with that same brush. And I think that yeah, they'll probably be kicking themselves in a decade for doing that.
Sure. What's one piece of advice you'd give to newcomers into the crypto space other than having a strategy?
Yeah, I think being patient is probably it's the one I always default. One bit of advice I always default to, because it's very tempting to be impatient and to like FOMO into things and to rush and to it's very, very tempting to overtrade and do things like that. And I think that just doing nothing is very underrated, and having patience and discipline is the one thing that I would recommend people just really keep front of mind, because it is very, 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 very easy to get sucked into like the hype and the get
Yeah.
caught up in all of it and then realize 6 months later, oh, hang on, where'd all that money go? Or I had
Yeah.
all this money and now I don't. And it's very it's yeah, it just being patient helps.
Yeah. Just speaking a little bit about Zen Academy and the 333 Club. Now, I saw your post actually this morning, or this morning, late
Yeah.
last night for you, right? But it was very powerful. And, can you speak to your thoughts and feelings? Even if there was a message you wanted to say to the community that just even through words.
Yeah. So, I mean, basically, after 2 years of trying to build a company, or a year and a half, really, and build a business, I realized that I don't want to do that. I want to build a community. And I think that I don't regret any part of the last 2 years. I think we've done a lot of amazing things, helped a lot of people. The team that I had around me are some of my favorite people in the world, and contributed so much. But I realized that it's not what I want to be doing. It's not the direction I want to be leading things in. And I really just want to get back to basics and sort of be a community member myself, be active in the space, trade, get back to trading, finding opportunities, and sharing that with the community. And the response to my announcement has been overwhelming, to say the least. I'm just appreciative of everyone that has been so supportive. And I'm really excited for really 2024 now, because I think that we've got such a strong community, and it seems like everyone is banding together that we can do some really, really, really powerful things together. Both Zen Academy and 333, very, very excited for it.
Yeah. There's a lot of power in transparency. And if you're not having fun, right? I mean, this space will eat you up and spit you out, right?
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, all the power to you, man. I think, that you're dead on, and it's like you were kind of maybe trying to fit a square peg in a round hole too, right? Like you're like,
Yeah, I think so.
there's parts of you that loved it, right? But then there's parts of you that were like, this is just not fun. And then it
You're dead
downplayed
on.
everything. Yeah. So pretty wild. Imagine you have the ability to foresee one major development in the Web3 space. What would you predict and how would you prepare for it? Yeah. What
I
was
would
that?
love to
Sorry.
know the just like what the landscape is for like the L1s 5, 10 years from now. Like, is everyone using Ethereum with
Yeah.
like layer twos on top? Is Solana the mass user blockchain that it's sort of gearing up to be? Is Ethereum used for other like just I would love to know what that landscape is like. I think there are a lot of possible scenarios. I do really believe we'll live in a multi-chain future, but what those chains are, how they interact, and the security of it all, and I would just love to know that and be able to prepare. I think a lot of people want to know that.
Yeah. That's a great thought. Lastly, if you can choose a significant historical event and reimagine how it might have played out differently in Web3 with the technology that we have at its disposal, what changes and how does it reshape history?
Hmm. The first thing that came to mind was like the dot com crash in '99, because I'm like, it played out exactly the same. It was just this new technology that people widely speculated on, massive valuations, and it all came crashing down. And that was 2021 in a nutshell. So I wouldn't
Yeah.
change it. Um, if I'm trying to think of another major historical event and how Web3 would change things, it's really hard to think of something like that. I mean, I think of like world wars or the atomic bomb, or
You can even look at too,
yeah,
like blockchain and political races and
yeah.
just,
Actually, that's a great one.
super
Just sort of like
interesting too.
transparency of voting.
Crazy.
That's a massive, massive one. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%, dude. Anything that
Yeah.
you want to leave the audience with?
Um, yeah. So I mean, a thought that I've had a lot lately, and I think a lot of people, other people have had, is that this bull market, whether we're starting it now or whether it's going to start in 6 months or a year, I think most people agree that there'll be another bull market in crypto. It's sort of very likely to happen. Markets are cyclical, and whenever it happens, a lot of people, myself included, kind of think this is going to be the last real one. I think markets are getting more efficient. AI is getting more prevalent, and when you get AI trading bots, the opportunities are just not going to be there.
Hmm.
Opportunities to make the kind of money you can make in crypto are very, very, very rare in life. And so I think that I'm personally sort of trying to gear up and prepare for this bull market. And I think it's a really good, sensible thing for everyone to spend a bit more time than they might otherwise preparing for the market, because opportunities like this don't come around very often. And yeah, and survival is the name of the game. Like, too many people get burned out, they lose all their money, or they lose their mental state, and they check out, and they miss so much upside by not surviving. And so just prepare for the bull. Again, comes back to the bull market survival ideas, but just don't waste this opportunity that's coming up in the next 2 years, because most people probably will never see one like this again in their lives.
Bang, man. I love it. You're inspiring
Yeah.
me to get going on my DJing tonight. No, man, it's been an absolute pleasure having you, dude. I appreciate you for taking your time, blessing us with your wise words from Zeneca. I mean, it's the audience I know will be excited to hear from you. Where could they find you?
Twitter is probably best, just at Zeneca, Zeneca. I have a link to like my side page there with everything else, but Twitter is best.
Excellent. Man, I know that you and I could be on a show for hours. I could pick your brain,
For
man.
sure.
I'm sure you have a crazy amount of stories, and I know you already have the wisdom. So looking forward to what you're building in the near future, and building, alongside each other. I mean, this is something that I'm going to be in this space, diving head first in and investing the time, the knowledge, the resources, and it truly is fascinating, the Web3 space. So again, dude, thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to having you on in the future.
Thanks so much. Yeah, would love to come back. We could chat for hours for sure.
Hey everyone, what is up? It is Digital Optimist here. I just want to say thank you so much for joining us on Beyond the Den. Quick favor to ask, hit that subscribe button. When you hit that subscribe button, that's going to allow me to attract top tier guests to provide you with the most value possible. Give me a follow over on X at Digital Optimist.